Hi, this is Will here from First 15 Rugby and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now I'm filming this video directly after watching Italy play England in the Six Nations, and to say that game was a nervous watch is a massive understatement. For large passages of that game, Italy actually were the better team, especially in attack. England looked rather flat, not an awful lot of energy going forward, and Italy were the direct opposite. Really good energy in their attack, lots of running lines and options for the ball carrier. And England looked on the ropes early on. Part of me was feeling like it could be a first for Italy. They could beat England, especially based off that first half performance. But it was a second half performance and an early try in the second half from Alex Mitchell, which got England back on the right track. And from there, they were able to close out the game. Italy didn't score a point for about 50 minutes in that game, so that sort of drought of points for the middle section of that game and for most of the second half. Really did cost Italy in the end. They did have a missed kick from the boot of Tommaso Allan, which now looking at the scores would have evened it up. But at the same time, George Ford missed 2 points off the tee as well. So a very tightly fought game. And I'm just going to look over what each team did well and what each team didn't do well. I'm going to start off with who scored the tries. It was a relatively cagey start. Both teams were throwing the ball around a bit, but there was a lot of kicking, etc. But the first try of the game actually came from Garbisi, not Paolo Garbisi, his younger brother, I think, who's relatively inexperienced at the international level. He got over a really bit of intelligent play, actually. There was an inside ball that sort of was going to the ground sort of thing, and instead of going to catch it and knocking it on, he let it dribble off his knee area, and then he was able to gather it and went under the posts, which was, from an Italian point of view, a perfect start. They went 10-0 up and were looking very strong. England then did fight back through the boot of George Ford with 3 points. At the point in the game where George Ford went for the 3 points, it was kind of, I didn't know whether it was the right decision. Part of me did want England to try and sort of implement some authority on the game, but George Ford, being the sort of tactician he is, he really does like to take the 3 points. So he notched them over, got England back on the scoreboard. And then England's try in the first half came from Elliot Daly. Tommy Freeman's looking really strong. A really good option for England, and he worked well and made a bit of a line break and then offloaded to Elliot Daly, who went over in the left corner of the field. A really good try from England's point of view. It was a bit clunky in the build-up, but it took a little bit of stardust from Tommy Freeman to really create the opportunity. And then another try for Italy came from Allan. Italy, as I said, have been far better attacking team in that first half. I think it just comes down to mainly attitude. They were willing to take the risk, willing to throw the ball around to try and make some line breaks. And the rather conservative style of England really was not the best to watch in that first half. As you can see from the tries, Italy actually scored more tries than England in this game. It was the 5 penalties from the boot of George Ford that sort of kept England in it and then enabled them to stretch away. In the second half, it was a try apiece. The Italian try came at the back end of the second half, I think 83rd or 84th minute, from Ioane, which is actually a huge try for Italy, because it meant that they could take a point from the game, at least take something out of a game with England. And England being one of the weaker sides in the Six Nations this year, it was imperative that they picked up at least something from this game, and it will give them hope of climbing off that dreaded wooden spoon place at the bottom of the table. And then England's try in the second half came from Alex Mitchell from rather close range. Got over from sort of 5-6 metres out. There's a slight hinting suspicion whether he got tackled and then went again, but on the replay he was never held, and the try stood. Now, in terms of what each team did well, let me just flick to my notes if I can find them. Competitive scrum and line out is one thing I jotted down. Both teams were really sort of disrupting opposition ball. The line out, I remember England messed one up on the Italy 5 metre line. Some really good sort of defence from Italy, really gritty defence of when it got really tough. They really bought in and really fought for each other, which I thought was exceptional. Maratoji and Chessum were really disruptive of the Italian line-out, so that probably explains why it wasn't really a highly scoring second half, mainly because both teams were very good at disrupting each other's ball, caused a lot of knock-ons, etc. And another reason for the scoreline not really picking up and there not being a huge amount of tries was England chose to kick the ball away an awful lot. It's always been a sort of a running theme alongside this England side, and was very, I'm not saying it was very effective in the World Cup, but it was effective under the conditions of a wet, greasy ball in the World Cup final. This was a perfect day in Italy, dry, no grease on the ball or whatever, and it didn't really change England's game plan. They didn't really sort of strive to play that much. The little chip kicks from George Ford when we're sort of 35-40 metres out are very frustrating. I mean, I've just come off the back of watching an amazing performance from Ireland against France, and they just didn't kick the ball away because they know that they're just going to cough up possession, and the opposition's just going to kick the ball, and you're going to be going back minus at least a few squares, minus at least sort of 20-30 metres. But yeah, the Italian attack, I said, was very fast paced, and the good scramble defence from them really made this game competitive. What cost Italy the game? I'd say the silly knock-ons and errors which were just so avoidable. Around the halfway line, just simple sort of catch pass and little knock-ons on the floor. I remember Ioane at one point was going to pick the ball up, and it just sort of grazed the back of his hand, but it coughed up possession and gave England the chance to exit. I remember another point was Italy sort of made a really nice line break 5 metres out, and then the first pass after a line break, just a straight knock on. Those are sort of things which really just kill the momentum in the game. If you look at the team of Ireland last night, as soon as they had an opportunity, they didn't make silly errors. They either scored or came back for a penalty advantage and took something from an entry to a 22. And that's something, if Italy want to be competitive in the long run, they have to increase their red zone efficiency. I'm not necessarily saying they have to score a try, but they have to at least yield a penalty advantage and take the 3 and keep that scoreboard ticking, because they had about 50-60 minute void of points in this game, and if they could have got anything, one try in that period would have won them the game, you know, if you add that onto the scoreboard. And then from England, good disruptive play. Maro's very good at that, and I thought the main positives from England's point of view was Freeman. I thought he was exceptional. Roots was good as well. Obviously got man of the match on his debut. Definitely a day to remember for him, so congratulations to him and his family and friends. Really good performance from him. Very sort of, I was calling him a classical England player of sort of 10-15 years ago. Not massively flashy, but does the sort of easy, well, not the easy stuff, but the basics really, really well. And that's a huge compliment. A player that does their basics really, really well is a far better player than a player who doesn't do the basics well but can produce stardust, because you really need that foundation to build on as a team. And I thought his carrying, I think he averaged over 7 metres per carry. Some really good stuff from him. Good clean outs, good work rate, and yeah, he's a big old lump which England will need in the bigger test matches to come in this tournament. And then in terms of England's attack, it was just clunky, very clunky, sort of passes that were going behind players. It wasn't fluid and it wasn't clicking. We've got to remember, I'm comparing this against the Irish performance last night, which I've spoken about a lot already, considering they didn't even play in this match, but that is the golden standard of attacking rugby in the Northern Hemisphere, and ball retention especially. And then the other thing which almost cost England the game, if you look at the scoreboard, was the discipline. Just silly, really silly things like you've just kicked 3 points yourself, and you receive the kickoff, and then you'll give away just a silly something, or you know, Italy have just scored and then they receive the kickoff, and you give away just anything silly, like just not rolling away or straight from the kickoff, and it's just so frustrating because you can't build pressure. Especially with some of the decent tactical kicks and from the back from Freddie Stewart. As soon as that went into touch, that should be a point in which you then build from, and then it'd be a silly penalty which would have completely undone the work. So all in all, England will be happy to get the win. Not 4 points, only 2 tries, and they conceded 3, so there's a huge amount to work on there. But to start off with a win is what you want in a Six Nations. Not massively confidence building really. But they got over the line nonetheless. From an Italian point of view, passionate performance, a performance that they can be proud of. But ultimately they've fallen short yet again. It was the same against France in the opening round last year. Only a few points in it, but it just reflects how they're not quite there in terms of the game management and the ability to nick a test match. But it does show great improvement from this Italian side over the last few years, especially in attack, and they're very dangerous. And it'll be an interesting watch to see how they fare against other teams. And yeah, very, very good performance from Italy, definitely improving year on year. And I'll be very interested to see where they'll be in sort of 5-6 years' time. Maybe they can be a team that can compete sort of mid-table, or even get the infamous Six Nations title at some point. But yeah, good performance from Italy. A slightly lacklustre performance from England, but they do get over the line and secure themselves 4 points. and set themselves up for a big game against Wales next week, which I'm fortunate to be at. Hopefully Twickenham has more of an atmosphere than it has done of recent times. It's been a little bit like a church or like a funeral at some point, so hopefully we can try and bring some atmosphere. I'll lose my voice in doing so, just to try and add a bit of spark to that Twickenham atmosphere, because it can be quite dull at points. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section down below. I'll reply to you all as always, and yeah, thank you very much for watching.